Baby, you are now rocking with the best. Parish on your screen. You see the legend right next to me, Jesse Holley. Baby, Bleav in Cowboys is back another week. Hey, Jesse, I was looking on social media. Some people had some things to say about our Mount Rushmore of pass catchers. This is my list. That was your list. This ain't your list, okay? All right. People, y'all got to calm down. These are our lists that we put together.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's the biggest thing about lists, and especially now in social media. This is my list. This is what I like. What, as my grandmother said, what I eat don't make you boo-boo. So if you don't like my list, make your own list and something that you have to live with. We made it very clear what this list was about and the rules behind this list. But the good thing is that people are watching and they're caring about what we think. So hey, you can listen. Our list will always be our list. We will have our feelings. We will have our opinions. You are more entitled to have your own. Just don't hate on ours, baby. Don't hate on ours.
Hey, definitely don't hate on our list. Create your own list. Of course, we're back in the building. So, just in case you've been under a rock, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys are going to get the MJ Last Dance treatment, courtesy of Skydance Sports, NFL Films, and Stardust Frames Productions. America's team, the Gambler and his Cowboys. This is the life and time story of the Dallas Cowboys. It premieres on Netflix Tuesday, August 19th. That's between the last two preseason games. Now, you're going to get interviews from Jerry Jones, Jimmy Johnson, the triplets. You're going to hear from Deion Sanders. You're going to hear from a whole bunch of individuals. Now, Jesse, I don't know if you've seen the trailer, but in the trailer, you have quotes from Jerry Jones saying things like, it's bigger than winning football games, keep them talking, and it's a soap opera 365 days of the year. So it kind of got us to thinking, because obviously we know the Cowboys' place in football history. You can't tell the story of the game of football without the Cowboys. However, it's been a minute since they won anything significant. So the question is, and I'm going to throw this at you, what is more important, in your opinion, when it comes to Dallas Cowboys? Is it more important to be champions, or is it more important to be famous?
Well, to me, again, this is my opinion. If you don't like it, feel free to leave it in the comments, to tweet at me about what your opinion is. But Ro, I mean, come on. We hear Jerry Jones speak about this so often. Since it would be shocking the check that I would write if it meant I could win a Super Bowl again. It's been 29 years, going on 30 years, 3 decades since you've been to the NFC Championship game, since you won a Super Bowl. It looks like, it sounds like, it feels like, if it looks like a duck and talks like a duck and walks like a duck, damn it, it might be a duck. And for me, the Cowboys look like, from an ownership perspective, now it's different than the guys in the locker room. From an ownership perspective, it looks like you care about being more famous than you do than being champions. And I know that, you have your championship in the 60s and 70s, and you have your 3 in the 90s. But since those times, and the first part of that, those 2 championships in the early times, that wasn't associated with Jerry Jones, right? And then you come into this thing and you were willing to do, in my opinion, you were willing to do whatever it is you had to do because you were bleeding money. You were losing $1 million a month, according to Jerry Jones. So you were willing to throw all these things into a hat to make this business profitable, long before you had a salary cap. But now it seems like the same young and vibrant and thriving Jerry Jones, who was willing to do whatever he had to do for this football team in his early times, just ain't the same no more. And I think for the Cowboys, outlook on it, from my eyes, is that it's all about being famous and not about being champions.
No, I agree with you on that. To me, when I talk about the Dallas Cowboys as someone that grew up witnessing that team constructed, watching it go from a 1-15 team to a team that won multiple Super Bowls in the 90s, man, Jerry Jones, in my opinion, it's all about winning the headlines. To me, that is more valuable when it comes to Jerry Jones. That is the equivalent of winning the Super Bowl. You talk about the quotes, keep them talking, bigger than winning football games. It's a soap opera 365 days of the year. The definition of winning: headlines, merchandise, net worth, back pages. Super Bowl, put that to the side. When it comes to the Cowboys, we know why they are number one, because they are a mediocre team when it comes down to it. All the talent in the world, the most Pro Bowl selections in the NFL since 1996. However, no Super Bowl championships. You said it, 29 years, 4 playoff wins since 2000. So listen, all that is fine and good when it comes time to, talk about the merchandising and the headlines, but ultimately the fans want to see a winner on the field. And to me, in my opinion, Jerry Jones does not care about that. He wants to win the headlines. He wants people talking about his team.
Yeah, I think this, and I've said this before on different occasions. When that list comes out from that really expensive publication, Forbes, and it shows that the Dallas Cowboys are the #1 franchise in evaluation and its profitability in all of sports in the world, that is Jerry hoisting his trophy.
Right.
That is him being a champion right there, when he can look around and go, that's right. Nobody in the world has a franchise more valuable than mine. And that goes back to your point of the merchandising and the popularity and the ticket sales and all that kind of stuff. So, my cry has always been to the fans, has always been, you have to, like, when you look at the nameplate of Jerry Jones, right? It says owner, president, general manager, right? The owner part, I always tell people, never skip over that part. Owners want to be profitable. Owners want to make money, right? Like, that's the goal. The goal is to always come out of this thing richer than when I went into it. And for years, the owner, Jerry Jones, leads a lot of what goes on in the Cowboys organization. And that's always going to be, how can I make this organization more profitable? That means being one of these stories. And let's be honest, Ro, do anybody plus age of 30 years old need to know the history of the Dallas Cowboys? No. We know. No. There's books been written. There's other documentaries. Like, we've been around long enough to hear the constant stories of how it started, who was involved with it, all that kind of stuff, the rise, the fall, all that stuff. I mean, great. I'll watch it because I have to. Right?
We have to, because we need something that we can watch. We can have content so we can have a conversation about it right here on this podcast. Jesse Holley and Parish. Can I go down the list just real quick, just in case people are unfamiliar? So since the Cowboys' last Super Bowl win in 1996, the Houston Texans have more playoff wins than the Cowboys. The Packers have more playoff wins at AT&T Stadium than the Cowboys do. And it's been over 10,000 days since the Dallas Cowboys have played in an NFC championship game. Every other team in the NFC East has appeared in the NFC title game except the Dallas Cowboys since 1995.
And what's even more crazy, you mentioned Houston Texans. The Houston Texans franchise just came available when, in the early 2000s? Like
2002.
Right. So they are just being a part of this thing. The Cowboys have had a long jump start before the Houston Texans even got involved in this thing. But I can't help but to think, right, the yachts get bigger, the planes get bigger, the helicopters get more fancier. Like, that kind of stuff I look at from a business perspective. And I ain't pocket watching and I ain't no hater. I'm all for it. Make your money, my boy. Like, do what you got to do. Make all the money that you can make. But just, don't disguise it as you want this to be a winning team, because we see how you go about things in the offseason, how you acquire free agents. We see we're looking at this now, and we haven't even talked about it today, but we can talk about it almost every week, for the last year or so. You still haven't signed Michael Parsons, right? You can jumpstart and sign Tyler Smith. He's next. That's coming down the pipe, right? Like, so you can do certain things where you can look at, there's players out there that you might, can bring in your team to make your team better that you just don't want to play, because that's not how you operate. But it's all about being famous. I want the headlines. I want to be in the A block. Hell, I want to be the leading story on Bleav in the Cowboys with Jesse Holley and Parish each and every week. Kudos, Jerry Jones. You've accomplished the goal again.
Hey, Jay-Z said it best when he talked about fame. It's stronger than heroin. It is one of the most powerful drugs that you can ever talking about being famous. Now, let me just say this. It sounds like I'm dumping on Jerry Jones, which I'm not. I will say this on the record, off the record. He is absolutely, by far, in my opinion, the best businessman in sports that we have ever seen. The number of deals that he has come up with, the creativity, the marketing genius, all the things he's done since he became the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, second to none. But when it comes to his football acumen, that's where I have questions. Jesse, you spoke on it, talking about, really, do you want to win when it comes to on the field? Do you really want to win? That is the question I've been asking since 1996.
I even asked that now with the recent coaching hire, right? Because again, Shotty will have his chance to either prove us right or to prove us wrong about the coaching hire. But there are other options that you could have went to than kind of waiting around and saying, and having to be approached by someone else in the organization to go, hey, maybe we should give this guy that's already in our building a shot, right? To give, Brian Schottenheimer a chance at being the first-time head coach in the National Football League. There was other options where you could have went, and you could have brought in someone else who would have given you maybe a better chance schematically. And I think that's hugely important in what you've done, because you've been able to get to the playoffs. But when you've gotten there, you haven't been able to get over the hump, whether that's offensively or defensively, schematically, against these other more superior coaches that you're going to face. And those are the guys that's going to be there every single year, especially within the division and within the conference, whether that be San Francisco or Green Bay or Philadelphia, and Washington's on the way. And you look across the league, that like the NFC East and the NFC in general are littered with some of the best talent from the coaching aspects. And so, when you look at this, the business side, there's nobody who does it better than him. And I will always salute him for what he does as a businessman. I salute him. I mean, hell, I said this last week about Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin changed my life, but it wasn't all Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin had to get the okay from Jerry Jones to use his franchise. So I applaud him for that as well, because it helped change my life. But it was another way for him to put his team in a position to say, hey, remember this show, remember this guy, remember this time. No one else was willing to do this. I did it. And for that time period, I was in the news as there is Jerry Jones taking another chance on bringing more notoriety to his football organization and to his business portfolio.
Indeed, talking about America's Team, The Gambler and his Cowboys. That is going to be on Netflix August 19th. I'm pretty sure this isn't the first time or last time that you'll hear about it. I'm pretty sure there'll be more than enough promotion when it comes to being on Netflix. And by the way, since the year 2000, the worst playoff record in the NFL by far is the Dallas Cowboys. 4 wins, 10 losses. Definitely not good. Not good at all.
Not good.
Talking about coaching, you mentioned Shotty. We know he is the man in charge running the show. We know that training camp has not started yet. It is on the way, but still OTAs are taking place. So we're looking at this. And one thing that Shotty said, the only stat that matters for quarterbacks is wins. Looking in that win column, is there a 1 in that win column at the end of the day? And got us thinking about culture of the team. So expound upon that. What are your thoughts on Shotty's comments talking about the only stat that matters for the quarterback position?
Yeah, it is. And we give the quarterback too much praise when they win. We give them too much criticism when they lose. And that's the only stat that we really look at when it comes to a quarterback. At the end of the day, whether you pass for 400 or 500 yards, you pass for 165 yards, did you get your team to victory? And so when you look at Shotty and him trying to change the culture, and whether that be with the energy or how he had relationship-wise, the question will remain. Can you and your quarterback get this football team over the hump? While winning is the greatest quarterback stat, well, guess what? Coaches, that's the greatest coaching stat as well. And so for him, the pressure is on for Brian Schottenheimer, who's coming in after being in this league for a countless number of years, but this being his first head coaching job, him now taking on the task as head coach / offensive coordinator and getting Dak Prescott and this football team over the hump. Relatively speaking, when Dak is a healthy quarterback, your team has a realistic chance to compete. Now, how far we're talking about competing, the year will dictate how that goes. But you know that you're going to be above 500, at or above 500 with Dak Prescott at the helm of the quarterback. The biggest problem has been when he's gotten into the playoffs. And we mentioned that earlier, 4-10 the Cowboys are in the playoffs in their last appearances. It's that part. It's how can I help my quarterback? And while we always say it's not all on Dak, a lot of it is. a lot of it we look at and how the quarterback plays. And again, not pocket watching, but when a guy makes $60 million, people are going to want to put a fair amount or an unfair amount of pressure on that price tag for Dak Prescott. And he has been there for this team in the regular season. It's all about now, can you start adding those wins up in the regular season, but mainly when they count in the playoffs?
No question about it. When you are the highest paid quarterback in the league, all eyes are on you. Like Tupac, rest in peace, Tupac. He was still alive the last time the Cowboys won a Super Bowl. Oh, my bad. I shouldn't throw shots like that. Oh, I shouldn't even say stuff like that talking about Tupac. Back to Dak Prescott, because we know he is a baller. We know that when he's under center, when he is healthy, as you mentioned, this team is in a position to win. He's been to the playoffs over and over again. But when you get into the playoffs, my question is, obviously you want him to make plays. However, as a coaching staff, schematically, you want to put Dak in positions so he isn't forced to make those plays, so he has a solid running game, so the defense is on point. What are your thoughts on having the right supporting cast around Dak so he isn't forced to make every single play?
Well, the one thing that this Cowboys roster has always been riddled with, you said it earlier about having the most Pro Bowl selections in the last couple of years. It's yes, you have them, but it's when you meet force meets force, right? You're talented, we're talented, and this is when it comes out in the playoffs, right? You get into the playoffs. It's not the bottom feeders, right? It's the creme de la creme. It's those who have risen to the top. And so you have good quarterback versus good quarterback. You have elite receiver versus elite receiver. You have a good pass rusher with another good pass rusher. You have a left tackle. You have all these positions that kind of, are meeting somewhere in the middle when it comes to an array of talent. But the good ones, the good teams with those good players are always has an advantage because of the guy who wears the headset. And this is where we look at Shotty and say, okay, can you outduel a coach from the sideline? Can you get the cast of characters, the Jimmys and Joes that you have on this roster that you pay the money to, that we load over each and every week for people buy the jerseys and they have the posters and the kids want to be them and all these things? Can you put together a scheme? Because that's what the good coaches do. That's what the McVays do. That's what the Shanahans do. That's what those level of caliber of coaches do in those moments. And so that's where it comes out for Brian Schottenheimer. Now that you've gotten your chance at this head coaching thing, can you rival those who you are considered your peers in the coaching? Yeah, you're going to have the players, right? Dak Prescott can go out there and throw passes with any other quarterback in the league. CeeDee Lamb, arguably one of the best top 3 wide receivers in the league. Michael Parsons, top rusher in the league. The numbers are comparable when you talk about player for player. You're not going to go into a game where you're just overly out talented. There are a few teams that are just better rosters than you, but that's when you got to be able to step in as a coach and say, here's, Bill Belichick and Ernie Adams were good for this in New England. It was like, hey, we aren't the most talented. We got the best player on the field in Tom Brady, but can I find an advantage? And when I find that advantage, how often and how successful can I be at exploiting that advantage that I have? That's where I'm looking at for Brian Schottenheimer in this year's team, as well as his coaching staff. You brought in a whole new coaching staff. Are these guys capable of having and making a distinctive advantage from the sideline that will pay dividends on the football field for the players?
Indeed, it's about having those advantages, creating those matchup situations to where schematically you take advantage of a weakness on the other side, spotting those little nuances so you put your players in positions to have success. Dak needs to have that. We saw that Mike McCarthy, excellent coach, all those consecutive 12-5 seasons to where they make it to the playoffs. However, when it came down to it, the right running game, was it there? That's in question. The right blocking schemes, was it there? That was in question. And then in those big moments where you need to make a play, maybe there was too much pressure on Dak and that interception is thrown and that pick six is going the other way. So can't wait to see what Shotty does. We talked about him, comes from good stock. Marty Schottenheimer, one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. He never got over the hump personally as a coach. So I'm looking to see, will the younger Schottenheimer do that and maybe win a Super Bowl, which we never got to see Marty Schottenheimer do.
Yeah, man, that's the goal, right? That is the goal. Maybe maybe this is it, right? Maybe this is the opportunity where all the stars align for the Cowboys, and Brian Schottenheimer is everything that we've been hoping for the last 29 years, and it gets this team over the hump. It's yet to be seen. We're still early, so there's a lot of optimism and hope and hopium in it. But we'll see. We will see very shortly as we get nearer and nearer and closer to NFL training camp starting about a little over a month and a half. Was it? We're in June. It starts in end of July-ish.
A little over a month.
Yeah, but a little over a month before we get there and the pads get on. That's why I enjoy OTAs and mini camps are cool and there's fun, but you don't learn much in those situations. It's not like the old school where you can tell, is Tyler Guyton better? I don't know. He got shorts and t-shirt on. Is Tyler Booker going to be everything that we needed to be? I don't know. He got shorts and t-shirt on. When we get to training camp and those pads come on, and now you got to really look down the gun barrel, that's when you're going to be able to tell if this is going to be a guy that's going to help your football team win or not, and is this football team ready to go out there and compete at the highest level?
All that said, another quote from Jerry Jones I'll leave you with, quote, I do want to keep them talking about the Cowboys and have from the day I got here. If we got them talking about us, we are doing our job, end quote. And what are we doing? We're talking about the Cowboys. Parish, Jesse Holley. Just to remind you, that Netflix documentary, August 19th, we're going to be paying attention. Training camp starts at the end of July. We're locked in on that, and we appreciate you for locking in with us every single week. Hey, Justin, before we get out of here, what do you have to say to the people before we go?
You guys already know, man. Take care of your mentals and your dentals, and always remember, eliminate the contingencies.
There it is. Love, respect, and salute.